David Thornton here. Today I want to show you how to make my triple chocolate cheesecake. It is really good stuff. All right, we're going to start off with the crust. We're going to take 25 Oreo cookies, not double stuffed cookies, but the original regular Oreo cookies. Cream filling and all. We're going to put them in the food processor. Got a couple pieces wedged up in there. All right, once we get those into crumbs, we're going to put 5 tablespoons of softened butter. Now, one of the key things to making this cheesecake is setting everything out beforehand. I've got the cream cheese, the eggs, and the butter have been sitting out for about 2.5 to 3 hours to get to room temperature. All right, we're going to put the 5 tablespoons of butter in the food processor. All right, we want to get this just incorporated good. Looks good. Now we're going to take we have a 9-inch springform pan. We'll spray just a little bit of cooking spray on the bottom. We'll dump all of our cookie crumbs in there. All right. Now we just want to spread these around as even as we can get them. Now I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees, but just spread these around as evenly as you can get them. All right, at this point we want to take a spatula. I'm using a plastic spatula, and go around and press this. Just press it to the bottom and around the edges. Sticking to my spatula. Yeah, just get that pressed around the bottom as evenly and flat as you can. And we're going to place this in the 350 degree oven for 6 minutes. All right, our crust is out of the oven. It's still just a little warm, but almost completely cooled off. We're going to go ahead and make the filling, but let me go over the ingredients with you. All right, for the crust, we had 25 original Oreo cookies with the cream filling and 5 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter. All right, for the filling, I've got 2 pounds of cream cheese, which is 4 8-ounce packages. I've got them open here ready to go. We've got 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. We've got 1/4 cup of cocoa, 4 eggs that have been sitting out also to room temperature, and I've got 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now I've also got 10 ounces of bittersweet chocolate chips. I like to use the chocolate chips because they're just easier to melt. Now they're in the microwave. I've put them on 30 seconds twice. All right, so we're gonna get that out and look at it. And it started, you can see on the bottom it started to melt. But what we want is for this to melt just enough where you can still see partial pieces of chips in it, chunks. We don't want to melt it all the way. We want to let it melt itself and not be crazy hot when we pour it into the cream cheese filling. All right, so while the chocolate is finishing up melting, I'm going to go ahead and put the 4 8-ounce packages of cream cheese in here. And it's also been sitting out for about 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. All right, let's look at this chocolate again. It should be getting really close to where we want it. All right, I don't know if you can see this now, but it's almost completely melted almost, but it's still got chunks in it. That's just what we want. So just let it sit and the rest of those chunks will melt completely also. All right, I'm gonna, since I've got it right here, I'm gonna set this chocolate on that wire rack so it'll cool off as much as it can before we need it. All right, we've got the 4 packages of cream cheese in the mixing bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and put the 1.5 cups of powdered sugar in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put the 1/4 cup of cocoa in there. And we're just gonna put this on the mixer on slow. We want to mix this together on slow just a couple of times. We don't want to whip it to death. All right, that's pretty good. It doesn't have to be completely mixed. We're going to mix it some more with the eggs and the vanilla. All right, I'm going to scrape the sides down. All right, I need to talk to you about the baking process also. I've got the oven preheated at 350, but we're going to place the springform pan into this skillet. Now I've got about a 1/2 inch of water in this skillet, and we're gonna wrap the cheesecake pan in this aluminum foil so when we set it down in there, water doesn't get into the pan. Okay, you just got to make sure you've got a pan, or a skillet or whatever in this case, that's large enough for your cheesecake pan to sit down into. And also, make sure you don't put the water too deep in the skillet so that it comes up over and gets into your cheesecake. I've only got about a 1/2 inch of water in there, so when we set this down in there, the water will come up around the sides and it makes the cheesecake cook evenly throughout. Okay, all right, we've got the cream cheese, the sugar, and the cocoa, and we're going to go ahead and add the 4 eggs and the vanilla. want to knock this down and scrape the sides. And once again, we want to mix this until it's just mixed together good. We don't want to beat it to death. All right, that's looking really good. All right, now our chocolate is looking good. There's really no lumps in it now. Now, the only thing I can tell you about this is you want to be careful to try to pour it into the middle, because if you pour it on the edge and it gets on the side of the pan, of the mixing bowl, the chocolate will just set up on the side of the pan, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to raise this up. Just got it on pretty low. And just try to pour this towards the middle, away from the edge, as much as you can. Getting really chocolate now. All right, we're going to scrape the sides one more time. I want to try to get all that chocolateness down in there. All right, now. It's looking really good. Of course, got to get some chocolate all over me. Ain't no sense in wasting any, or as little as possible anyway. All right. Well, ain't no good if you don't get a little bit on you. All right, now we're going to scrape the filling into the spring form pan. Get as much of that out of there as you can. All right, now we want to spread this around and try to flatten the top. All right. right, now we want to pull this foil up. Just get it in the middle. Make sure your foil comes all the way up to the top. And be careful not to rip or poke a hole in the foil or it's going to defeat its purpose. Now we're going to kind of leave this sticking up a little bit so when we take the cheesecake out of the oven, we can use this aluminum foil to lift the pan up out of the water. So fold it down, but not all the way down. All right, now same thing going in. We're going to set the cheesecake into the water. And now we're going to place this in the oven. I'll put the handle in first. It fits in my oven better. Now I'm going to bake this for an hour and 10 minutes. You can check it at an hour and make sure the top is fully set. But in my oven, it usually takes right at an hour and 10 minutes. All right, my cheesecake has been in the oven for an hour and 10 minutes. It looks like it's set pretty good in the middle. So we're going to take it out. I'll be extra careful with this water in this skillet. All right, now using the aluminum foil, we'll slowly set this on a cooling rack. All right, there we have the cheesecake. It looks really delicious. Now I'm going to let this cool for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to take the thinnest, I'm going to use a real thin paring knife, and in about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, I'm just going to go around the outside edge with that thin knife. And once the cheesecake cools down to room temperature, we need to put this in the refrigerator and let it sit for at least 8 hours. I'll probably just let it sit overnight until. All right, our cheesecake has been sitting in the refrigerator overnight. It needs to sit in there at least 8 hours. But it's time to make the chocolate topping or the ganache. Now, we could use a smaller pan than this, but I'm using a 2.5 quart saucepan so it'll cool off quicker after I'm done. We got to get this all melted. We got 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. We've got 8 ounces of bittersweet chips and 1.5 tablespoons of granulated sugar. All right, and we just want to heat this up until it all just melts and blends in together. It doesn't take long, maybe 4 or 5 minutes at the most. All right, our ganache has been cooling down. It's right at room temperature, maybe just a hair warm, but we don't want it hot at all. All right, we're gonna pour this right over the top of the cold cheesecake. I don't want to waste none. All right. Now we're going to put this back in the refrigerator and let the ganache set up. And we'll be ready to cut a slice of this rascal in. Looks really, really good. I can't tilt it, it's going to make my chocolate run. All right, our cheesecake with the chocolate ganache has been sitting in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes or so, letting the ganache cool and set up. So let's take it out and see what it looks like. Looks really good. All right, let's see. All right, first thing we want to do is take this thin paring knife like we did before and go around the outside edge. Everything feels good. It feels firm. All right, good. Now I've got a glass of warm water here. Probably should pour a little bit out. A little too full. All right. I'm gonna put my knife in there and let it warm up a little bit. I'm gonna take the springform pan off. All right. Looks really good. Some of the ganache ran around the edge, the crack between the pan and the cake, and it looks really good. All right. See if we can't cut us a nice piece here. We're going to leave the cake on the bottom part of the pan. Trying to make sure we cut through that cookie crust. All right. Well, there you have it. Dave's Triple Chocolate Cheesecake. Really good stuff. Once again, I'm David Thornton. I appreciate you watching. I can always be reached at homefineeating@gmail.com. I hope you enjoy the food, and thanks again for your time.